What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today, we have our official preseason AP Top 25 for college basketball. We're going to look at it, break it down, talk about who's overrated, who's underrated, who got snubbed, all that good stuff. But I just want to say real quick before we get started, we are starting a ton of college basketball preseason videos coming your way. Starting with this one, we are going to have a ton of college basketball preseason stuff. Still going to do the college football stuff, but you guys know how much I love college basketball, and I'm ready to get into it. I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new, hit that like button if you guys enjoy, and let's get it started. Guys, we got the official preseason AP poll. I'm going to go over it team by team, let you guys know who I think is ranked right, who's overrated, who's underrated, who got snubbed, all that good stuff. And I want you guys to let me know who is the most overrated team in the AP preseason poll for this season of college basketball. I will let you know mine when we get to them. But starting off, number one team in the country, the Kansas Jayhawks. I feel like no surprise here. Kansas has gone out of their way to pick up a ton of players out of the portal, still getting a couple of good recruits as well, and a ton of returning talent, returning their starting point guard in Harris Jr., returning their starting center in Hunter Dickinson, returning another veteran in KJ Adams Jr., along with a bunch of other transfers, specifically at the wing position in Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr. Absolutely stacked team. Kansas, to me, I feel like they should be the preseason number one team in the country. Alabama at number two. I'm also fine with this. I feel like Alabama has done a really good job also in the portal, but also with some returning guys, returning one of the best players in college basketball in Mark Sears. Probably the best point guard heading into this upcoming season. Definitely the best scoring guard. Him or RJ Davis. I don't know. That's actually a close one, but returning him brought in Cliff Amorie from Rutgers, one of the best shot blockers, one of the best rim protectors in college basketball. That is going to be huge for this Nate Oates team. Very high pace, good offense, bringing in that anchor down low. And Cliff Amorie, a guy who can also catch lobs, score a little bit in the post. That is going to be huge for this Alabama team. No problem so far with number 1 and 2. I actually agree with 1 and 2 with the AP poll. Number 3, we have UConn. Now, UConn coming off back-to-back national championships. And I don't have a problem with them being number 3, and here's why. Yes, they are losing a good bit of players from last year. Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan. But they're bringing in some more guys. They are bringing in another 5-star recruit to play wing. They are returning Alex Caravan. They are returning some of these guys like Samson Johnson, who is going to be their new starting point guard, who I believe is going to be one of the breakout players this year in college basketball. I think that Dan Hurley has a great developmental system that he is building there at UConn, and Samson Johnson is going to break out this year. Also bringing in transfers, Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's. At St. Mary's the last couple of years, he has been really killing it for them, and I think he's going to step into UConn and play a huge role and kind of be able to be those really good three-point shooters on the wing position that UConn just has loved to have over the past couple of years when they've won these national championships. So I have no problem with that. I think that a lot of these guys that they have coming in to replace these guys, and guys like Samson Johnson who have been there just waiting their turn, are really going to step up and make a difference. I have no problem with UConn as a number 3 team in the country. Number 4, we do have Houston. Honestly, I feel like Houston could be ranked anywhere in the top 5. They could be ranked number 1, number 5, but I definitely believe they are a top 5 team. They are going to be one of the best defensive teams in the country once again, bringing back a lot of guys like LJ Cryer, who's a good scorer, Francis down low, who is going to be a beast for them. Francis and Juwan Roberts in the front court that I think are going to be an awesome defensive presence and also just help this team in a whole. They're great players, good veterans. Houston, no problem with them being in the top 5. Iowa State's another one of those teams bringing back almost everybody. They also brought in a transfer from Charlotte that I think might not be too bad either, but especially their wings and their point guard and Taman Lipsey, they're going to be a problem. No problem with them being in the top 5. Honestly, I'm going to come out with my personal rankings here very soon. Like I said, we have a ton of preseason content coming your way for college basketball. Make sure you guys subscribe. I'm going to come out with my own personal Power 35 rankings like I usually do. And I don't know, I might have Iowa State a little bit lower, but honestly, I kind of feel like 5 is a good spot for them. So far, so good here with the AP poll. Now is when we get a little bit tricky, though, because Gonzaga, I feel like could be a little bit lower, but I do understand why they are as high as they are. They have a really good front court. I've been waiting for this guy, Ben Gregg, to really have a breakout year. I thought it was going to be last year. I think it could be this year. But they also have Graham Ike in the front court, who is a very good big, and also Ryan Nembhard, a very dependable, very good playmaker there at point guard for Gonzaga. So I understand why they are number 6, but at the same time, I would probably have them a little bit lower. I don't think that they are a better team than Baylor. I would probably have them at least lower than them. Duke at number 7. Duke at number 7, being in the top 10, maybe a little bit too much hype. We want to see what these freshmen can do before we rank Duke this high, but I also understand Cooper Flagg is one of the most hyped up number 1 prospects that we've had here in a couple of years. Really, maybe since Zion Williamson, who also played at Duke, have we had a number 1 prospect this hyped up. I think he's going to make a huge difference, but they also brought in a lot of other good recruits. They have the best recruiting class between them and Rutgers, have the best recruiting class coming into the season this year, and they're going to be really good. Also returning their point guard and Tyrese Proctor. I think that is going to be huge to have somewhat of a veteran presence around these freshmen. But yeah, I think Duke, they definitely could be a top 10 team. I'd probably start them a little bit outside the top 10, me personally, but I understand why they are where they are. Not really going to argue that too much, but I would probably have them a tad bit lower. Number 8, we do have the Baylor Bears. Now, I actually do really like this Baylor team. I think that they have a really good guard coming in, new freshman guard, like they have been bringing in over the past couple of years, and Rob Wright is the real deal. Also bring in transfers like Norchad Omier as a center. I feel like if Baylor got a center, they are going to be a problem. And it wouldn't surprise me if Baylor comes out and wins the Big 12 this year. I know that is a huge thing to say because there are so many good teams in the Big 12, including, 3 in the top 5 and 5 in the top 10. But I think Baylor can do it. I feel like they have a big. Scott Drew is an excellent coach. I feel like they should definitely be in the top 10. I feel like 8 is almost perfect for them. I would maybe move them just a tad bit higher. But North Carolina at number 9, bringing back R.J. Davis, one of the best scoring guards in the entire country. Also got some pretty good recruits coming in this year, as they always do. I like North Carolina a lot. Do I think that they are a top 10 team, though? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're a top 10 team. I'm not super mad at it, but honestly, I would maybe have North Carolina a little bit lower. I think they might be a little bit overhyped heading into this year. Next up, Arizona. I really like this Arizona team a lot. They brought in a transfer from Oakland, Trey Townsend, who was going crazy for Oakland in the March Madness tournament. I think that is going to be huge because they did lose Umar Balu, their star center, over the past couple of years to Indiana in the portal, but they are bringing back their backcourt and Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love, which I think is going to be huge for this Arizona team. First year in the Big 12. I'm excited to watch them go up against very high level competition week in and week out in the Big 12. It is going to be super fun. I'm fine with them being in the top 10. Auburn at number 11. Auburn at 11 is one of those ones that I've been seeing a good amount of people kind of having trouble with. They thought Auburn was a little bit too high, but I think they have one of the best backcourts in the entire country, and I'm not even exaggerating with that. I mean, Denver Jones and J.P. Peggs are going to be super good this year for the Auburn Tigers. They also have another point guard that they brought in that is going to get some burn for them as well as a 6-man And Bruce Pearl, I feel like people really keep doubting Auburn, but he has really built up this team really ever since that Final Four in 2019. They have been competitive, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they are competing with Alabama for a SEC championship this year. I feel like that they have a chance at it with this backcourt, and also Janai Broome coming back as well, who is a great paint protector, who is a good post scorer. What more can you ask? I think Auburn has a really good team. A lot of people were saying that they are too high. I think that they are ranked pretty appropriately, in my opinion. I like Auburn up here around this range. Tennessee at number 12. Tennessee at number 12. This team has a lot of question marks just because they brought in a lot of transfers. Yes, they are returning Zakai Ziegler, but honestly, I'm not too high on him that much this year. They lost Dalton Knecht, who was a huge part of this team last year, and a lot of their scoring. They bring in another 20-point-per-game scorer out of North Florida that I think is going to play pretty good for them. I just don't know if Tennessee is a number 12 team this year. I think the SEC is going to be pretty tough. I like Rick Barnes a lot, obviously a legendary coach, but I'm not sure if I would have them this high heading into the year. I know no matter who is in this Rick Barnes front court, they usually play pretty well, but they're going to have to show me again and prove me wrong again, because right now I would have Tennessee a little bit lower than 12. I think they are a little bit overrated in this preseason poll. Number 13, we do have Texas A&M, and Texas A&M, this is exactly what happened over the past couple years. I feel like, they were like, okay, this is finally the year. Buzz Williams, Wade Taylor, this is going to be the year that they, from start to finish, maintain a top 15 to top 10 team and get a top 5, top 4 seed in the March Madness tournament. They always start off slow and then come out of nowhere and start winning enough to secure around a 7 or 8 seed. They need to start off strong this year, play really good, and get a top 5 seed in the tournament so they could actually make a run, because they have the team to do it. Wade Taylor is an excellent guard. Henry Coleman, I know he went down with injury last year, but I believe Henry Coleman is going to be huge for this Texas A&M Aggie team this year. I'm fine with them at 13. I would probably have them a little bit lower just because I want to see them do it first, and they are prone to start off slow. But I am fine with them at 13. Not going to complain too much about it. I do think Henry Coleman, if he can stay healthy this year, and Wade Taylor, they could definitely be a top 13 team in the country, but will they? Number 14, we do have Purdue. Purdue, I actually believe, is definitely a top 15 team in the country. And yes, they are losing Zach Edey, but I believe Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be maybe the breakout player of the year in the Big Ten. I really believe that he is going to absorb a lot of those touches, and he can stretch the floor as well, which is going to open up these drives for Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and these guards. I just believe that Purdue is a top 15 team still. I think that Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to impress a lot of people. It wouldn't surprise me if he is averaging 13 to 15 points per game this season for the Boilermakers. Number 15, we do have Creighton. They're returning a couple of guys. Stephen Ashworth at point guard. Ryan Kalkbrenner. Seems like he's been there forever at center, but he is so good, man. Other than that, I do believe that this team does have a couple of question marks. Pop Isaacs, a transfer from Texas Tech. That's a good pickup. He is a great three-point shooter, but somewhat inefficient. And I'm fine with Creighton being up here at 15. I'm just not sure if they are going to be a top 15 team in the country. I think they're a top 25 team, but they do have some question marks outside of Kalkbrenner and maybe Stephen Ashworth. I have some question marks about this Creighton team. I would have them a little bit lower. All at number 16, and this is probably the most rangy team for a lot of people, because of all the drama that went down this year with Arkansas. Picking up John Calipari as a head coach, getting a lot of these Kentucky transfers where they're going to have DJ Wagner as their point guard. Also bring in John L. Davis, though, but returning guys who have been at Arkansas like Trevon Brazile. These are all excellent players. If they can put it all together, I believe Arkansas is going to be, a top 10 team in the country. I feel like at 16 is pretty fair for them to start off, just because Calipari has had these really talented teams and ended up not performing the best with them in recent memory. So I worry a little bit about Arkansas, but they do have a really good team, and honestly, I could see them starting off bad and maybe going lower, but I think that they are going to succeed this year. Trevon Brazile before injury was a problem, and I think that if he can get back to that, John L. Davis is playing John L. Davis ball, DJ Wagner hits his full potential. Let's not forget he was the #1 recruit last year. This Arkansas team could be different, and I'm very excited to watch them play. I feel like 16, kind of around the middle, is like the perfect spot for them to be ranked preseason. Indiana, in my opinion, might be one of the more underrated teams in the country this preseason. I mean, Indiana at 17, I feel like they should be a little bit higher. And some of these other rankings that I've been seeing, they've had Indiana actually lower. Yes, they lost Khalil Ware, but they replace him with another great center in Umar Ballo, who is going to be a great rim protector for them. Going to be able to catch lobs, going to be an amazing rebounder. Not going to be able to work in the post as much as like a Trace Jackson Davis or maybe even a Khalil Ware, but he can do it some. And they also added a two-way point guard, one of the best defensive guards in the league from Washington State, Miles Rice. He is going to be amazing for them. Also a great playmaker. I think that this Indiana team, if they can shoot behind the three-point line, is going to be maybe a top 10 team in the country and maybe your Big Ten champions this year. I think they have potential to do so. If they are shooting well from behind the arc, Indiana, I believe, will win the Big Ten championship this year. Next up, we have Marquette, and Marquette finally losing Tyler Kolek. Big loss for them, an amazing player, but they are still 18 because they are returning Cam Jones, who is going to be balling out this year. Also have some other good players, Stevie Mitchell, Sean Jones. They still are going to have a really good team, especially with their guards. I like them around this 18 range. I'm happy they're getting some preseason love, even though they lost Tyler Kolek. They deserve it because they still have a really, really good team, and Cam Jones is going to be one of the best players in the country. Texas at 19. Texas at 19, I'll be honest, I don't love it. I'm not sure Texas should be ranked in the top 25 preseason. I feel like they have the team to be able to be in this, 20 to 25 range. 19, I'm just not so sure. A lot of transfers between Jordan Pope from Oregon State, Arthur Kaluma from Kansas State and previously Creighton, Tremont Mark from Arkansas. It's a lot. It's like a weird combination of guys. We'll see if it all fits together. It's a lot of names that are familiar. We'll see if it pans out for Texas. Cincinnati at 20. Cincinnati, I'm very glad to see them getting a lot of preseason love. They have not only a really fun team to watch, but a very deep team. And I think that this Cincinnati team is going to shock a lot of people in the Big 12. I'm very excited to see even the AP recognizing that. Super excited for Cincinnati. Definitely fine with them being in the top 25 preseason. Same with Florida, man. Florida, Walter Clayton, underrated player in college basketball. Super excited to see what he does at Florida this year. But they also brought in a guy from FAU, Elijah Martin. And they also have some really good front court players as well that I believe they're going to be fine on the boards, fine defensively. I think that this Florida team is going to be pretty good. I like them a lot here around this 21 range. 22, we got UCLA. Man, did UCLA hammer the transfer portal this year. I mean, last year they kind of had a down year, right? And Mick Cronin really hammered the transfer portal, and I definitely see why they are 22. But again, the transfer portal can be very hit or miss. I like to see, the teams mesh, and with them joining the Big Ten this year, it's going to be interesting. I would like to see these players for UCLA mesh together, all these transfers, before I want to, rank them too high or even at all in the top 25. So I understand why they're there. I personally probably wouldn't have them in my top 25. Speaking of teams who just went out and got a ton of transfers, we got Kentucky and their new head coach, Mark Pope, replacing John Calipari. And this is a completely different Kentucky team than what we have been used to seeing in the Calipari era, which was usually a ton of freshmen and highly rated freshmen playing together. But here we are seeing a group of guys who are transfers. You got Kobe Brea, you got Jackson Robinson, you got Lamont Butler. I mean, guys who have had success in college basketball coming together. I'm fine with them being 23. I would probably have them a little bit higher, man. I know you guys might be thinking, well, it's just Kentucky, but you got to look at their roster. That's why they're not ranked as high. But honestly, I feel like Jackson Robinson, one of the most underrated players in college basketball. He was the sixth man for BYU. He was their best player and led them in a tough Big 12 last year to the March Madness tournament as a sixth seed. I think that this Kentucky team is going to be a lot better than what a ton of people are thinking, and I really like them. I think that they should be a little bit higher than 23. I would have them top 20. I would have them above Texas, Cincinnati, Florida, UCLA, Marquette. I would probably stick them right behind Indiana, to be honest. I feel like that's a good spot for them. I'm a lot higher on Indiana, so I would maybe even move Creighton down below Kentucky. To be honest, I'm pretty high on this Kentucky team. I think they're a little bit underrated heading into this season. We'll see how Mark Pope does, but he played a gauntlet in the Big 12 last year with BYU. Made it to the March Madness tournament. It's not the big name hire that we thought Kentucky might get, but it might be the right guy for them. Number 24 and 25, Ole Miss and Rutgers. I'm not too high on either one of these teams being ranked in the top 25 for the preseason. I think Ole Miss, yes, they have Chris Beard. Yes, they got off to a pretty hot start last year, but ended up not being able to make March Madness. Expecting to get there this year. I think they could definitely make it to the March Madness tournament 100% if all these transfers do come together, but I'm just a little bit iffy. I think Chris Beard's an excellent coach. I'm just not sure if Ole Miss is going to... I like to see, like I said, I like to see these guys come together first before I want to rank a team like Ole Miss in the top 25. And Rutgers, yes, we know why they are ranked. It is because they got two of the top three recruits this year in Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Two phenomenal, prospects. I'm super excited to watch this team play, and I really do hope Rutgers is a top 25 team because that is going to be super entertaining to watch. But to rank them over a team like Illinois, and not to mention Illinois has had one of the best recruiting classes this year as well. They have 4 top 50 players coming in this freshman class, and also returning some better players as well than Rutgers. I think Illinois has potential to win the Big Ten Conference this year, so to see them unranked in the preseason is pretty disrespectful. I would have Illinois over Rutgers, Ole Miss. I already said I'd have Kentucky a little bit higher. I'd have them over UCLA, Florida, probably Cincinnati and Texas, and Marquette. Honestly, I would have Illinois over a lot of these teams. So to see them not ranked, pretty crazy. That was shocking. I think Illinois, they got to use this as motivation. They'll get there, I believe. Other teams, Xavier, I believe, should probably be top 25. They're just on the outside, so I'm not too mad at that. Texas Tech's going to be super good this year in the Big 12. Like to see them ranked. Ohio State, I'm pretty high on Ohio State this year, higher than most. Some of these non-Power 5 teams, like a McNeese State, a Grand Canyon, a Dayton, I'm surprised that no non-Power 5 teams got ranked. I would expect maybe a Dayton in there, maybe a McNeese State for all that they're returning this year after that amazing record they had last year. Yeah, they got beat bad by Gonzaga in the first round of the tournament, but they're expected to be good. Maybe a Grand Canyon in there, San Diego State, even a St. Mary's. I'm surprised to see none of these teams, not one in the top 25. But if I had to say my biggest snub, definitely Illinois. But I would also say Texas Tech and Ohio State are the next couple of teams that I think should probably be ranked in this year's preseason top 25. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think is overrated in the AP poll? Who you guys think's underrated? Who got snubbed? Let me know down below in the comment section. We got a lot of good stuff coming for preseason of college basketball. I'm going to come out with my own personal rankings. I'm going to break down every team by conference. So first we'll probably go over the Big 12, SEC, and really break down each of the teams in these conferences and just talk about them. And yeah, ton of preseason stuff coming your way. We are just a month away from the season. I can't wait, guys. I hope you guys are excited as me. And make sure you guys subscribe so you guys don't miss all this good content. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.